Digging through the past is not that hard. Rusted cars and broken shards, mining memories in an old wrecking yard. Echoes of laughter, whispers of pain. Time stands still, but the memories remain. In this graveyard of steel, I find.
Welcome to the Wrecking Yard. I'm Jerry Wayne Longmire, and y'all are presumably still y'all. Everybody's welcome here in the Church of Internal Combustion. All we ask is that you show up with an open heart. Kind of an interesting day here at the Wrecking Yard, right? It's the end of an era, maybe? Not an era. I don't know if you call it an era. That's probably being indulgent. It's the end of the first season. This is the last episode of the first season of the Wrecking Yard podcast. Feels weird, man. We made it though. We got here, right? Like, look at us making moves, you know. I was hanging out with my good buddy David Doyd the other day. Y'all know, y'all heard me talk about him. I'm gonna talk about him some more tonight, but I got the opportunity. I don't always have a lot of time to see my friends. This job doesn't always allow for that when you work all the time. But I got the opportunity the other day to go pick David up, hang out with him, go have lunch with my bud. And conversation. He got a new hat. Got him a new hat from the Duluth Traders. Got him one of them scally hats. I've always liked him hats. I got too big a head for them, I think, you know. But he got him one of them scally hats. I love hats. I love hats of all kinds. I love hats of all flavor. You won't find many hats what I don't like. David got his new scally hat. He was showing it off. It was pretty cool. And I always give a little more props to dudes that can rock an unconventional hat, you know. And me and him got to laughing, got to cutting up about this ugly ass fedora I used to wear all the time. I think it may have been more of a trilby. It was like an old man hat. It was plaid. I don't even remember where I got it, man. But I used to wear this hat everywhere I went, and I'm sure there's pictures from my wedding, my bachelor party where I was wearing this hat. You know, I'll try. I know I can find one of them. I will definitely. Jerry Wayne, do not forget to put this picture up here. Let them see his terrible hat. I wore that hat religiously. Loved that hat. It disappeared. I suspect that my sweet wife had something to do with its disappearance. I would, I'm no detective. I'm not got the hat for it. But if I was going to start a case, she'd be my first suspect. She, of course, denies any involvement in the disappearance of the great fedora of the early 2000s. But we moved one time and it never made it to the next move. And so she's a meticulous packer. I suspect she unalived my poor ugly fedora. And it was an ugly hat. Not like this hat. This is a fine hat. This is a fine hat for a number of reasons. My grandfather, John Longmire, was from a little small place outside of Jackson, Tennessee, called Humboldt, Tennessee. Humboldt, Tennessee, back in the 40s and 50s, was mostly farmland. And my papaw, that's the little part of Tennessee he grew up in, and his dad was a farmer. His dad's name was John Thomas Longmire. And he was a farmer, and all his land that he had, and I think it was kind of sharecroppy. I don't think he really owned a lot of the land, but everywhere his farm was now is a subdivision in Humboldt, Tennessee. I've been out. I was up there one time. My cousins took me out there to see it, and years ago, I was up there in Jackson, Tennessee, and I was doing stand up at the South Street Comedy Club, and I was wearing that awful hat. And I got a cousin. He's like a second or third cousin named Otis Wayne. Everybody in the family calls him Odie Wayne. Odie Wayne. Odie Wayne's a machinist out in Memphis, Tennessee. Uh, and just a really good old dude. I really liked old Odie. And when I first met him, we hit it off right off the bat. And Otis Wayne come out one night to see me do comedy. He said, "I see you like that hat." He said, "I got something special for you." And I was like, "Well, what's that, Otis?" He said, "Well, your great grandfather. I just happened to come about it, but your great grandfather, one time back in the '40s, took him a trip to Memphis, and he got him a fine hat while he's in Memphis. I don't know where he bought it in Memphis, but he bought him this Borsalino fedora. Now you got to figure 1942 Casablanca comes out, and this is very similar to the style fedora that Humphrey Bogart wears in Casablanca. It's real similar. That was a Borsalino hat too. So I have to wonder if my great grandfather wasn't influenced. Humphrey Bogart was his influencer, and he saw the way old Humphrey looked in that hat and decided, boy, he got to have him one of them. And this is a big expenditure for a farmer who didn't make a lot of money and had a bunch of kids. So it must have made him feel some kind of way. Now, that was also a different time when people wore hats. Cousin Otis Wayne says, I came to be in possession of that hat, belonged to John Thomas Allmeyer. And he said, anyways, I'm going to send you that hat. And sure enough, boy, a couple of weeks go by, and this big box from Mr. Hats in Memphis shows up on my doorstep. And I open it, and there's a lovely letter from Otis, rife with misspellings, but I done took it. He said, I done took it to the hatter and had him refix it up. And he said, also, this is Junie was little. He said, also, oh man, pass my love to Rachel, little baby girl. And wore his hat a few times. It just didn't feel right on my head. It just didn't, I don't know. It wasn't the right time. Sometimes it's not the right time for the hat. Sometimes you got to hold on to a hat until it fits you. You know, I don't like getting rid of hats because you just never know. One day that hat might fit you for some reason. That hat might fit what your life is at that time. And after me and David got talking about that hat the other day, I went home. First thing I did was whip that hat out of the box and put it on. And I looked at myself in the mirror. I said, boy, I think 2025 is the year of the Borsalina. And it's amazing, man. It's a 85-year-old hat. And it's just as soft as a duck's ass. Still, it's just a fine hat. It's got some wear and tear. It's got some damage to the felt in a few places, but that's character. It's like a little patina on a pickup truck. You know what I mean? This hat's got patina. It's got character. And I never met John Thomas Longmire. He was. Some people say he took his own life in 1950, and then there's a growing belief that he was murdered in 1950. Some people, I forgot how I found all this out. It was through a college or something, but they were X-raying the boards that came off his barn. He was hung, or supposedly hung himself, but he had some gambling debts and some stuff going on, and it's a pretty serious debt. And there was people trying to get his land, but supposedly he hung himself in 1950 off his barn, off the top of his barn. So these college kids did some imaging and stuff for whatever reason, for some kind of project on these boards and stuff, and they found images of his footprints where he was trying to climb back up and save himself. And there's some other evidence that goes with it along the line that there's a pretty decent possibility that the old man was murdered in 1950. So I didn't know him. I never got to meet him. I don't really have a strong connection to him other than through my papa Longmire. But I was very fond of Papa Longmire, and I've spent a lot of time going up Tennessee and meeting my family up there and spending time with my family up there, and grown to love them all a great deal, including Odie Wayne and my cousin Lowita. I don't know why old Appalachian women have names like that, but the Laquita and Lowita, and there's a whole strew of them up there, man. Once you get to a certain age group, so I'm rocking this. I'm rocking the old Borsalino today. Just this is gonna be fun. We're just gonna have fun. We're gonna tell some stories. We're gonna wrap this thing up with a bow and get ready for the new season. Let's do our sponsors real quick, man, before we get too carried away. Of course, still Mr. Daniel Pulliam and thetrainedhorse.com. It's right there on his logo. Thetrainedhorse.com. Family owned horse stables in Southern California. They decades of experience training horses and instructing people on how to handle horses. Probably kind of help I need. They offer lessons all ages, even up to 47, I hear. Uh, Private one-on-one lessons, no groups, which that's anytime you want to learn anything, it's one-on-one. That's what works best for me. You know what? You might learn best in a group. I shouldn't tell you what your learning style is. I tell you a funny story about me. Well, you can't remind me. I'll come back to it though. They got a custom lesson program for children and adults with disabilities. I'm a firm believer in the work that equine therapy provides for people with disabilities and people with PTSD. I've just seen too many results. It's not for me. It wouldn't help me, but it would help others. It might, I might be wrong. I might get around the right horse and decide I like horses. You never can tell. They got horse training for horses of all levels of age. They can make your horse better. They can make you a better rider and give you the confidence on horseback that all them old cowboys had and stuff. A real connection and bond with your horse and a very well trained horse. Go to thetrainedhorse.com if you're interested. Reach out to Mr. Daniel Pulliam. Of course, it's not a record yard podcast if I don't bring up the Everyone Racers. I got a little special shout out, man. Christian Mental Ward and Everyone Racers podcast has been my longest running sponsor without fail. They re-up every month, and I couldn't be more thankful for them. They're a lot of the reason this thing gets done the way it gets done, because of the help they've given me and the sponsorship they've given me. And I just couldn't be a bigger fan. Their podcast is about amateur endurance racing of all times. And I'm telling you, it's one of my favorite podcasts to listen to. I listen to probably about 4 or 5, and that one is right up there. It's usually the first one I click in when I hit the road and head out to one of my comedy gigs. I like to listen to these 3 guys and this gal talk about their racing experiences and everything that's going on in their life. And like I said, Racing Junk, when they talk about their website where they sell stuff, it's absolutely amazing. I implore you, if you're interested in racing at all in any form, you're probably going to pick something up from these guys. They talk about it all from tire, everything involved with racing a car. They cover it. Go check them out. Everyone Racers podcast, everywhere you can find podcast. Spotify. They're on YouTube. They got a video on Spotify. They got it all. You go find them. Everyone Racers podcast. And a special thank you to you guys for supporting me most of the way through this first season. You're one of my very first sponsors, and you've stuck with me. And I just couldn't be more pleased with the work I've been able to do with y'all's help. Is that camera crooked? I bought a new camera. I got it set up. I'm trying to get some footage off it so I can start learning how to use it. It's a little more complex than the old GoPro, so you may see me looking from camera to camera. But I just want some of this footage to practice with. Learning style. I wanted to go back to that because that struck a memory. For a very brief period during the pandemic, I did not know what to do. I was a little freaked out. And I went down to a temp agency and an unemployment agency to see if I could figure out how to get some help because I didn't know how I was going to pay the bills. I think a lot of us were in that situation. But I never in my life had to do, I think I may have got unemployment once, but usually I had another job. Was never a person that had to do that, you know. Never had to do a lot of government aid, except for my kids were born, you know, a little bit here and there, but it wasn't, it's never been like a thing I had to do. And so it was all a foreign experience to me. And sorry, I got new hearing aids. I'm getting used to them. It was all a foreign experience to me. And I went down to this office and they said they couldn't do any in-person stuff. They wanted to do a Zoom call. And so I get on a Zoom call with this lady and she starts asking me questions about what all I've done for work and, you know, how I've earned my income and how long I've been unemployed, yada, yada, yada. And we're going through the questions and she gets down and she said, they ask you some kind of fruity questions, like questions I didn't have, man. She said, Mr. Longmire, she said, what is your learning style? I said, man, my learning style? I said, hell, I don't know. I said, most of the way I learned things in my life was by having old cranky ass men yell and holler at me and call me homophobic slurs until I learned how to do stuff. And she goes, oh, no, 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 no. No, Mr. Longmire. What I mean is, are you an audio learner or a visual learner? And I was like, Heifer, did you listen to that story I just told you? I mean, it sounds like audio to me. Luckily, that didn't last very long. Let's see, what's the temperature in here? Oh, that's not too bad. What is that about? 55. It's about 36 outside, so the garage is a little warmer. Wasn't aware. I did know I brought my heated vest just in case, because I have been a mess. I do not do cold weather very well. But I wanted today to be kind of spontaneous, you know. I sat down and I started writing this episode, and I just wanted to put every story in there, every story I forgot, and then some of them I can barely remember. You know, some stories I told so long ago, and you know, lived through so long ago, I can barely remember. Now, so man, at some point I decided this is what I'm gonna do. It's just gonna be a grab bag. I'm gonna list these stories in a row, and then I'm just gonna fumble through them and tell you the ones I want to tell, and maybe we'll get to all of them. It's a bunch of them though. And I'm having a hard time deciding where I want to start, to be 100% honest with you. Y'all can't hear it right now, but the neighbor's dog is losing his mind because those jackasses never put their dog inside when it gets cold because they're terrible human beings. You know what? Let's tell animal stories since I'm grouching about animals. This a story. See if I can think back about when this was. It would have had to have been pre 2000, maybe 99, somewhere in there. It's hard to say, really, but it would have had to have been in that area. This is a time period where not only was a run around Joey, I think maybe y'all have heard me talk about my friend Colin a few times. He lives down in Corpus Christi now, but my buddy Colin was from Ransom Canyon, Texas, and he was just the wildest little West Texas lunatic you ever run around with in your life. Boy was just wild. Good hand. He was a draftsman, really smart, really intelligent. Uh, Too smart, probably. Got him in trouble a little bit. He ended up doing a little time in the system and stuff over some stuff. But he was a good dude at heart, good hearted guy, man. and he did have some unfair chips stuck against him. His dad was the old Texas State Trooper I worked for a little bit at Texas Oil and Gas. A man named Jim Fitzgerald. Colin. If you can imagine, Colin's about 5'5", wiry. Boy could fight. It was like putting a badger in a burlap bag. Boy could fight like a wildcat. He was tough as nails. He'd grown up a hard. His dad was a hard dude. This dude grew up. This dude grew up rough. His dad was a hard dude. He didn't grow up soft. This boy would jump down. You talk about somebody get down in the plow dirt. Colin would be the first one to volunteer. Boy could scrap like nobody's business, and just tough. Funny too, man. Funny guy. Very kind of Irish looking, right? Kind of copper hair, thin mustache, and kind of you know pale features. Tough though. He's fun to hang around with. And Colin always he had some cool stuff, man. Colin had this old I think it was a CJ5, had a small block 360 in it, and it was just one of the most ridiculous things you ever rode in your life. That little Jeep would get up and get down. I saw him really embarrass some people in that Jeep a few times. And he had a square body GMC truck with a 396 in it. That truck was a hoot, fun to run around with. But at some point, and I feel like he bought it from one of our other friends. Maybe it was Joey's old Blazer. I don't remember. For the life of me, I can't remember. I think maybe he just bought it somewhere else. He had this. It was a K5 Chevrolet Blazer, old square body K5 Chevrolet Blazer. Had some problem with the transfer case. It was always jumping out and coming undone, and he was having to jack with that all the time. The old truck needed some work, you know. wasn't hadn't had its best days anymore. We all decide. I think I got the story 100% wrong. See, I told you so many stories are so old I can't remember. Colin had his Jeep. Joey was driving his. It was Joey's Blazer. And we all decide, and we used to do this quite a bit. My birthday's in the summer. We used to spend a lot of our summers heading out to New Braunfels, Texas, to go float the river. You know, that's just kind of a Texas tradition. You go out there and you get a little too drunk with your friends, and you get on inner tubes with some plywood strapped to the bottom of them, and you bebop up and down the Comal River, and you have yourself a grand old time, and you try to make sure everybody survives the ordeal. It's told y'all a story where one time it didn't go great. Young lady got hurt out there, but most of the time went pretty good. We had a good time. You drank too much, but you came home a little changed, better experience. This particular time, Colin had his girlfriend he was dating at the time, a young lady named Candace, that he's still married to this day. Lovely gal. And Joey was dating a gal that was not a lovely gal. And I do not have fond memories of her. But she was kind of a rednecky gal from Conroe. But she didn't want to be a redneck, but she really was. And I had nobody. This is in a time period where I was all wrapped up in Melissa, and that wasn't going anywhere, and I was alone. And I used that alone time just to drink too much. That's what I was doing at the time, having a good time, being young, being stupid. There's few things as good as that. We go out there, we head out to New Braunfels for the weekend or some such. We're gonna go out there and we go float the river, and that's a good time. And then that night we decide to go explore a little bit. We already got our tent set up and everything. I got my tent set up, and Joey and his gal got their tent set up, and Colin and Candace got their tent set up, and let's go do a little exploring. So we go driving around, and we find this little road that wanders and climbs through a little bit of a switchback up to the top. And it's a little overlook, kind of one of those rocky little overlooks like you got out there in central Texas. And you can see the stars. They're bright and they look closer, you know. And I'm bored because they're all doing couple stuff. They all climb up on top of Joey's Blazer and they're hanging out and doing lovey dovey romantic crap. And I'm bored with that. I'm not having a good time because I got nobody to do romantic lovey dovey crap with. Being third wheel sucks. Being fifth wheel really blows. So I asked Colin if I could borrow his flashlight. I want to go do a little exploring. Now, right around the edge of this little rocky outcropping, they have mounted in the ground some very thick wooden fence posts with a rounded top, very old, half-assed petrified, and they're mounted in the ground, and they come up about about groin high. That's going to come into play later. Keep vehicles and such from driving off this rocky outcrop and crashing down below. It's not all that steep. It's a little steep. I'm interested, man. I can go down there with a flashlight. I've had a little too much drink, probably. A little sweevy. Go down there and I don't know what the hell I was looking for. I think first I went looking for a place to take a leak, and so I wander off down past these little poles and down on the side of this hill and in the dark, and I find me a nice quiet place to pop little Jerry out, take care of business. And I'm peeing in this bush, and in one of these scrub brushes over here, I hear a tsh. Boy, that either make you pee faster or stop peeing. I went with the first option. And I'm looking over in them bushes, and a lot of animals. I don't know if you know this. If you spend a lot of time outdoors, a lot of animals, their eyes will glow in the night. And I look over in this bush, and there's a pair of glowing eyes in this bush, and they look too tall to be anything that can't get me. Now, I wasn't an athletic young man, but I think at the time I deemed myself young enough and fast enough to get away from some shit. And I very carefully zipped little Jerry back up and very slowly pointed my flashlight towards that bush. And when I did, that bush moved. Now, at this point, I am 100% sure there's a mountain lion looking at me from this bush because there's mountain lions everywhere out there. There's got to be a cougar. That's what's coming to get me. It's definitely a mountain lion. And I opted for the best strategy I could come up with at the time, which was to scream like a woman, bloody murder, and run up that hill as fast as I could. Because for whatever reason, I thought I could outrun mountain lion. I take off up that hill. Ah! Oh, Lord Jesus! Ah! Running up that hill. They're all looking down from the blazer trying to see what it was. Colin to this day swears it was a big old jackrabbit. And that's possible. They get real tall, but I ain't never seen no jackrabbit with no glowing eyes. And from now on, when I tell the story, it was a mountain lion, and that's all there was to it. I just happened to be feeling fast that day. And that thing was chasing me. Something was coming for me. I just knew it was right on my heels. You ever run for something? You just know it's right on your heels. And I up that hill, and I was hollering all the way up that hill until I caught that fence post right between my legs. And I hit that fence post hard enough that it not only did it take all the sound out of my voice and all the man out of me, I mean, took all the man and bass out of me real quick. But I hit it so hard I flipped over frontwards and landed on my back. Took a minute. That's a type of pain. It's something only a man understands. It's a type of pain. It takes a minute. It takes a minute to mature and grow. The pain don't just show up. Woo! Let's have a good time right off the bat. That pain takes a little step, a little half second to grow. Ooh, and that pain grew. And when it hit, I was trying to stand up. I just turned around. I throwed up everywhere, boy. Oh God, what have I done? What have I done? They're all like, "What the hell are you doing? Where are you running from?" I was like, "There's a mountain lion down there." I was like, "Oh no, mountain lion's a rabbit." I ain't never seen no 5 foot tall rabbit with glowing eyes, but I'm not in a position to argue at the moment. I broke my balls, I think. I don't know what's happened. We all decided to go back to the campsite at that point, probably because I've ruined the mood. It's hard to get romantic lovey dovey when somebody breaks their balls right beside you. Get back to the campsite. I don't know what to do because one of the fellas has taken the swelling. It's no longer the size we started out with for the day. It's grown exponentially. You know, probably at that point, I would say maybe about the size of this little tiny ass water bottle. You know, what was that? About half a grenade. It was growing. Felt like it was the size of a Volkswagen Bug in my britches. It's a very cold night. It's a very cold night. It's wintertime. It's a very cold night out there in Central Texas. And I don't know what to do. But Joey and Colin, they want to go walk around and drink, meet people at other campsites. So we start doing that. Lo and behold, we're hanging out. We meet these med students from Texas Tech. I said, man, the odds of me meeting some med students out here, whoo, fellas. I got it. One of them was going to school for nursing, a young man. And I said, buddy, I got to tell you, man, I ran into a post running from a mountain lion. Colin's like, that's a rabbit. Colin, shut the hell up. I was running from a mountain lion. I ran into a post. I broke one of my balls and swelling up. I don't know what to do. Can you tell me what to do, man? I don't want you to look at it. You probably don't want to look at it, but you're like basically a doctor, right? You're going to med school. You're smarter than me. Tell me what to do. And dude's like, man, I don't know what to do about that, but you want to see me do a backflip? And I was like, hell yeah, because it's not every day you get to see somebody just do a backflip. And dude did a good ass backflip. He did two of them for us, and they gave us some beers. We continued to walk around with my giant nut that was growing by the minute. Some point we end up at our campsite, and I just sit in a chair most of the night, drinking beer and holding a cold beer on my nuts that has now grown to the size of about a Crown Vic, it feels like, in my britches. I'm afraid to even look at it at this point. It just, everything over here feels swollen. I feel like I'm probably going to die. So worried about the next morning that when we get ready to leave the campsite, I go to a payphone and I call Joey's dad. I call Mike. And I explained the situation to Mike. Look, I was running from a mountain lion. He goes, are you sure it's a mountain lion? I'm sure it's a mountain lion, Mike. I was running from a mountain lion. They just said, just don't focus on the mountain lion. That's not the important part of the story. But I was running from a mountain lion and I hit this post. I think it broke one of my balls or ruptured it or something. And it swelled up really bad. I'm in an intense amount of pain. I'm also very drunk. What should I do, Mike? Mike says, man, if you're really worried about it, Jay, I get somebody to take you over to the hospital, you know. I said, man, I ain't got no insurance. I won't go to no hospital. Ruin the trip for everybody. We're all out to have a good time. I'll also have it noted that Joey's girlfriend at the time hated when he did stuff for me. And I was the broke one out of the group. Joey made good money. Colin made good money at the time. I was a guy just barely eking by. They wanted to go rent jet skis. And boy, she was being real sadistic and rude over there. Just, yeah, you probably don't want to ride jet skis, did you? since your nuts are swollen up and you're having so much problem with it, and she was just being an asshole the whole time. And that's what they were doing. We were headed out to Canyon Lake. They was going to go rent a jet ski and ride jet ski. I honestly, as much as I love jet skis, had no interest in getting on a jet ski at that point in time. Because, like I said, I now have a Chrysler Cordoba hanging down from the right side of my scrotum. I'm in an immense amount of pain. They're all kind of having fun doing their thing. And I walked down to the edge of Canyon Lake and I dipped my toe in Canyon Lake and I realized that Canyon Lake feels like it's about 45 degrees. I don't know how cold it was. It was probably 50 or 45 degrees outside. That water felt like ice. And I had an idea. I stripped down to my under britches and I run out on the end of that pier and jumped off in Canyon Lake. And let me tell you, that cold shot right up through my sphincter and went right up into my core reactor and just turned it off. Ice through my veins, buddy. I couldn't feel my face. But you know what else I couldn't feel? I couldn't feel that monstrosity that was hanging down between my legs that was hurting so bad. And I stayed in there as long as I could take it, which was about as long as it took me to get back to the pier and climb my big ass out of Canyon Lake. But let me tell you, I climbed out of Canyon Lake. I went over there, kind of dry it off, and I pulled my underwear out, looked down there, and lo and behold, old boy's almost back to normal, man. Now he's back down to, you know what I mean, like the size of a grenade. I said, hell yeah, look at that, boy. So, if you ever find yourself with a ruptured testicle, and you happen to be within a reasonable, reachable distance of an icy cold lake, I highly recommend you do the old polar plunge to fix it. And if that doesn't work, definitely go to the hospital next. I did not go to the hospital. In fact, I don't. We just went home after that. Uh, yeah, in fact, we were going home, and Joey's blazer starts overheating, and we realize it's thrown a fan belt. And we're miles away from any kind of. It's a Sunday, nothing's open. There's a Napa about 15 minutes or 15 miles away, but it's closed on Sunday. And Colin made a belt out of a piece of rope. And I thought it was the dumbest thing I'd ever heard of. And damn if it didn't work. And we got that blazer home. And it didn't overheat all the way home until, we get it home and Joey could fix that. Oh, Colin's something else. Boy, he's a resourceful fella. And I hadn't seen him in a while. I think one of the last couple times I played in Corpus Christi, him and his daughter come out to watch the show. But I love Colin, man. His dad was an important part of my growing up, and of course Colin was too. And though we didn't always agree on everything, I love that dude. Glad to see him and Candace have been happy all these many years. That's pretty close. That's pretty close around the time I was. It was a little bit after that I was selling cars for a little bit at Crown Dodge. I think it was just a little bit after that. It was before that. It was before that. It was before that I was selling. It was before I met Colin when I was selling cars at the Dodge dealership. I might have already known him. You know what? Honestly, I don't know anymore. It's when I was selling cars at Crown Dodge that me and Joey spent a great deal of time together around those years. That's when I had there was a guy I worked with over there had this 86 little Fox body Mustang GT. It was white, black stripes, and I was buying that car from that old boy, man. I liked that car. Had a little 5-speed manual in it. I was always a Mustang guy, but that one in particular I really liked. Wasn't all that pretty. You know, the striping wasn't the best stripes I'd ever seen anybody do. They looked like maybe they were spray painted. But boy, that Sun 50 would run. It had a was it a 340 they make? It's like a little stroked. It's a 340 or 342. It's a little stroked Ford small block in it. Buddy, that Mustang, you couldn't. That Mustang won races. That Mustang was a winner. I don't remember ever losing in that car against anybody. That little car, it was set up just right. Me and my dad had tinkered with it. I launched it so hard one night I twisted the subframe and the damn hatchback wouldn't shut right. I think I told y'all about it. Me and my dad made some homemade subframe connectors for it, and then I broke those, and then we remade the homemade subframe connectors, and I broke those again. Then I went and bought some real subframe connectors for it, and those did pretty well, just old bump style, you know. But me and Joey, we worked on that car a lot together, man. That car, the only thing that car was bad about was that little T5, man. I would burn a clutch, and I didn't have money for good clutches, you know. But that car would burn a clutch like nobody's business. Probably had a little something to do with me, but I'm not going to admit to that. I'm not going to cop to that. Might have been my foot that caused all the clutches to go bad in that little Mustang. Boy, me and Joey had gotten so good. We'd go out there on Westheimer and run up and down the strip and run that car. We had gotten so good at working on that car and changing the clutches of that car. We could have the transmission out of that car and have the clutch in it and putting the transmission back in the car, you know, when it was still too hot to barely hold. You had to put gloves on to hold the dad blast thing, get it in there, piloted, lined up, get that thing stamped back together. And there's no power tools, no power. This is all hand ratchet and hand ratchet and extensions and the little slip knuckles and all that good stuff. It's just us. Me and Joey could get that transmission down out of that car, get a clutch pressure plate put in that car, nobody's business. And almost gave Joey brain damage for that car one night, man. We did one of these moves, man. We had to pull that transmission out of the car, and the old T5 it had a little spot on the bottom. It was almost like a little hump. You could sit there on the ground, but you could move it pretty easily. Me and Joey was pulling that thing apart, of course, covered in grease and oil. Thing it burned a little oil, leaked a little oil. Getting that clutch changed, we're gonna get that clutch back in there so we can go out there and run the highway a little bit more that night. Laid up underneath that car, and I still don't remember how it happened. I just figured. I said, "Are you ready?" And I thought Joey said yes, but apparently Joey did not say yes. And I grabbed the back of that T5 and yanked on it. And when I did, that thing just spun like a swivel. And that daggum bell housing, no, I grabbed the bell housing, and when I grabbed it, it just spun like a swivel. And that damn tail shaft come around and hit Joey in the head. Let me tell you, it made a noise, a cow. It just knocked the piss out of me. Like if it was a cartoon, there'd been little birdies underneath the car. Joey, big old red mark on his face. Oh my god, I'm sorry. You okay? Okay? Yeah, don't touch me. Don't touch. You know how a dude gets hurt. Don't touch me. Get your shit away from me. Yeah, that anger response, man. I saw it in him. I was like, oh, he's gonna kill me, man. He didn't. We got the car back together. Back on the road that night. We was out running the roads again, but boy, he was a little groggy the rest of the night, and I still can't help but wonder if I remember he ended up with some bad teeth on that side of his head, and they say, like an injury like that'll ruin your teeth later on. Boy, I sure hope I'm not the one that messed up Joey's teeth. I got a bunch of bad teeth on this side of my head. And I know who ruined them, who hit me with what that caused it. It caught me a dadgum board in the face one night. Sure enough, about 10 years later, all them teeth are bad. You watch him head impacts, people. Me and Joey, man, we had the thing that's like hard to think about sometimes. Like my kids will never, and God knows I don't want them to, because shit, it's a miracle we survived it. But there's so many things they won't experience, and they're not going to experience the time me and Joey had. They're not going to experience that. There was a level of freedom back then, just because you didn't have you didn't have all the cameras and all the people reporting on everything you do, and everybody telling the world exactly what they're doing all the time. And I know it's a double edged sword. I profit off of it, and that's a thing that I'm a part of. But we had a level of free. It was just different before the internet. It was just different. There was a Some of you guys know you grew up in that time period. It was just different when we weren't all connected. When you didn't know everybody was having the same. It's wild when I tell you all these stories and y'all tell me y'all had the same story, because back then we didn't know we was connected like that. These days, through the power of the interwebs, we can know that. But back then, we didn't know that, man. When you didn't have a phone in your pocket telling you what was going on all the time, I didn't know what the hell was going on with the weather. I'm not a freaking farmer. Why did I give a shit about the weather? Me and Joey went fishing in a tropical storm one night, because neither one of us two idiots knew there was a tropical storm coming. All we knew was we had a night where we got together and got to hang out, and we were grown ass men with children by this point. I wish I was lying about that, but we were grown ass adults with children, and we were so nostalgic to go fishing together. We just gonna go wade fishing. We had our gear. We were out at Babes Beach, Galveston, Texas. I said, man, let's go out there and do a little wade, a little night fishing. You can't fish during the day. There's too many people on the beach, that sort of thing. But we grown up. I've told y'all the stories. We grew up fishing, wade fishing on Bolivar Beach, and I said, man, let's go out there and throw a line, see what we can get. I was being studious, thought I was being smart, put my eyeglasses on. I had a real nice pair of Oakley eyeglasses at the time that I paid. Remember when glasses used to cost like $500 and stuff? That it was like a $400 or $500 pair of Oakley eyeglasses I had saved up and had to buy and get made for myself. I said, man, I don't want to ruin my contacts in the salt water. I put the eyeglasses on. Boy, we started wading out. It's a little choppy at first. Neither one of us bothered to check the weather. We're catching a few little specks here, some speck trout. We're having a good time. Just that wind picks up a little bit and it gets a little darker, and the waves start getting a little harsher. And when you're with your buddy, neither one of you wants to be the puss. Neither one of you wants to be the one like, well, maybe we are pack it in. Neither one of you wants to be that dude. Hell no, I don't want to pack it in. You want to be the guy, the tough one that somebody has to convince to go in. But these waves are getting ferocious, bro. They're like knocking my big ass down nearly, and they're getting taller and bigger. And at some point, I look over and Joey's just going underwater like a bobber, but he still ain't going to admit that he's not having a good time. And my line's all tangled up. I've done lost half my fishing tackle, because every time a wave hits me, one of them little plastic boxes in my tackle box, I had like strapped to me. It was a floating tackle box. And every time I go dig in, when them waves hit, poof, there goes a box of lures, to parts unknown. I think the final straw for me was when Finally, I was like, "What the hell, man?" I said, "Let's make our way back." We start making our way back, and at that point, we realized we was way farther out what we thought we was, because when storms come and that tide goes out, man, you can get out there pretty far before you get deep enough to like wade fish. Well, now the tide's coming in, we're swimming, and these waves are kicking our ass, man. And we're trying to get back. One of them waves hit me, knocked them eyeglasses right off my head. Now I'm blind as a bat. All I can see is the lights on the seawall, and I know I'm headed towards that. I can't even hear Joey over the wind and noise. Yeah, that wind's whipping through there now. There's pieces of palm trees and stuff floating around, and seaweed being washed up and getting tangled up in that. We get there dragging. I ruined my reel's all jacked up. My tackle box is half of it's missing. My eyeglasses is gone. We get back over to where our wives are. They're like, "Man, we was worried about y'all." They said on the Weather Channel, there's a tropical storm coming in. Like, but they had no way to get it. We didn't have our phones out there before they were all waterproof. Yeah, boy, that nostalgia get your ass killed, man. If you ain't careful and trying to be too tough and get your ass killed for sure. Me and Joey have had some adventures, man. The thing I think about the stuff that we used to do, man, like because it was a whole thing back in Houston back then, man. And some of y'all remember these. Some of y'all had similar stuff, but back then you needed a stereo for your car, man. We didn't go down to Best Buy and buy no stereo. We didn't have Best Buy money. You can go down to the Walmart and buy a new car. We didn't. First of all, you want that crap. Audio box, whatever the hell it was. But what we did have is we had this magical place over off Hillcroft called the Pulga. Pulga, which I think translates in Spanish to the flea. And the Pulga was a Hispanic flea market, so it makes sense if the Pulga means flea. Like, not like runaway, but like the insect. That's Big Mike Vargas, all those guys. They love going to the Pulga, and that's where you go down to the Pulga, boy. You get yourself a nice Pioneer deck headset. You know what I mean? A nice Pioneer, the old face-off kind where you take the face off, stick it in your pocket, and go to the bar so nobody breaks in and steals your radio. You get them nice Pioneer decks, man. $100 refurbished. You know, that deck anywhere else could run you $400 or $500. You get it down to Pooga, $100 refurbished. If you got a bad one, you take it back over there. They had excellent customer service. They swap it back out. The kids aren't never going to go to the Pooga and buy a car stereo. They're going to get on Amazon, find the best deal, have it sent to their front door. They're going to have the experience of going down to Hillcroft and windswept 8 o'clock in the morning, wandering through a variety of vendors trying to sell you Spanish mixtapes and cumbia tapes and Spanish and corn on a stick and elotes and all the clothes and work clothes. Oh boy, they were work clothes selling some fifties down there. They're not gonna have that experience, that carnival, be a part of that carnival. Closest thing they get is going to Mitiendo on a Saturday. It was an experience, man. You'd go down there, you had to negotiate. You had to stand up for yourself. You had to stand on your own two legs like a man, talk to another man, and try to get the best price you could. That's an experience. That's one that doesn't. They're not going to do a bunch of that anymore. Not with the internet. You don't need to. And then you might buy yourself some speakers at the poker. You might not. We had this other place in Houston. It was basically the redneck version of the Pulga. It was called Trader Village. Trader Village is like a big trades days, man, over there off 290. All the vendors set up, selling all the stuff. People selling special door locks for doors you couldn't kick in. They were selling nunchucks, throwing stars and swords, man. I don't know. Some of y'all might remember if you're from Texas, but it used to be if you drove up and down US 59 in Texas, like I would drive back and forth from Kilgore to Houston, man, about every 7 miles, there was a dude selling swords, Confederate flags, and Elvis paintings. I don't know what the hell them hillbillies was getting ready for in East Texas, but I always pictured it as some sort of rednecky Highlander thing. Like there can only be one, like they was. If a sword fight broke out in East Texas, there was going to be some dudes prepared. Because if you drive up 59, boy, you get your Confederate flag and your sword and your Elvis painting right there on the side of the road, and fresh peaches spelled Peeches. Fruit's always better when it's misspelled. That's the rule. I don't know if you know that, but if you stop at a roadside vendor and they've misspelled watermelon, there's an I in there for some reason, buy that watermelon. You're not going to be unhappy that watermelon because people can't spell make good watermelon. I don't know what the rules are, but so we would go over to Trader's Village. They had all these kind of vendors over there, man. It was a whole different experience. But Trace Village also had the Persian dudes, and the Persian dudes were a trip, man, because the Persian dudes would try to use the Persian sellers are the funniest. They would try to use the slang. Hey, brother, look at that. I remember I bought a little band pass 12-inch box, and I had some 12-inch Sony exploders and 1,000-watt amp, and I went over there to buy a box at Trader's Village. And every box I looked at that this dude had, come on, brother, I'll make you a super sweet deal. This is super tight box. Super tight box. I'll make you super sweet deal right now, bro. Don't bullshit me, man. Don't bullshit me, man. Super sweet deal right here. Persian sellers are they got the wildest version of negotiation I ever seen in my life. When I was in Iraq over there, we would go to the little places where they sell things, where the vendors were set up. And I remember I was looking at this bracelet, and this dude was like, oh, he's like, oh, you like this bracelet? You like this bracelet? It's very nice, very nice. Looks very good on you, my friend. $50, man. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't like it. $50 much. Appreciate that. Come on, man. Don't bullshit me, man. Don't bullshit me, man. $25. Drop this price in half right there before I even said another word. Man, I don't know. Come on, man. I'll make you a super sweet deal. Come on, don't bullshit me, man. $10, man. $10. Tell you $5 and I'll give you whatever movie you want from the movie, all the pirated movies. The kids today, they're not gonna get to experience that. They're not gonna have that experience, going out on the hunt, some sort of thing you need. Unless your kid just happens to be an old wrecking yard vehicles, then maybe they can still go out. But even the junkyards are different now. You got to call ahead. It's wild, man. It's not like the old. I know everybody the old days. I don't think everything was better back then, but I do hate that there's like a whole generation of young little gearheads and car guys that don't get that experience. I hope somebody in their life's taking them to swap meets or something. They had that shit in Aruba too, man. Me and Rachel went to Aruba, man, in the early days. This got to be the Ford Contour days, man. We was living in that little house and out the. Rachel and I decided to go on this trip to Aruba with her friend and her friend's parents. We're all going to rent a house and we're going to spend 7 or 8 days in Aruba. And her friend and her friend's parents turned out to be a nightmare, but we actually had a good time. Aruba was wild, man, but they had those little places, just like most little foreign countries, little places you go to tourist at. They got places people are selling stuff. And time I was a little bit of a canvas user, but you don't want to go around Aruba asking for weed because that was like right after the Natalie Holloway thing, and Aruba's tourism was devastated by that. Never mind like 30 people a year go missing in Jamaica, get kidnapped. Aruba lost one white girl and everybody lost their mind. And it wasn't even their fault. It was a Dutch dude's fault. But everybody was still kind of up in arms about that. So you couldn't just, you know, you won't get in no trouble get in trouble in a foreign country is different than getting in trouble here. Got to mind your P's and Q's over there. But I was walking through the little Reuben shop, and they had little pipes for sale made out of seashells and stuff. And some of the pipes were $10, and some of the pipes were $25 for the same pipe. Kept asking the gal, I said, "Man, why is that one $25?" She said, "Because it's ready." Boy, it didn't dawn on me later after we left. We bought the cheap $10 pipe, and then I saw somebody walk out of there with the $25 pipe and light that son of 50 up and start smoking it. Whereas the $25 pipe comes preloaded. I love them little. Everybody, I grew up in the trades days and going to swap meets and pop all, and I love that environment. I love a barter environment. Just worry the kids aren't going to get to experience that as much anymore. We did a bunch of snorkeling on that trip, man. I used to really like snorkeling. I was in a little better shape. I've always been a really good swimmer. We ended up hanging out. We didn't. So Rachel's friend and her parents turned out to just kind of be a nightmare. But her parents had brought apparently the wife's sister and her boyfriend or live-in husband, whatever he was. He was an old dude named Ronnie. He was a truck driver. And me and Ronnie hit it off right off the bat. We got along. We chased a giant ass monitor lizard. We got along right off the bat. Me and this dude, we saw eye to eye. We started kind of hanging out with them the rest of the trip because we was tired of being lumped in with these other people who were unhappy and complaining the whole time. And so we decided we wanted to go do some snorkeling, and all around Aruba, there's a couple places they've sunk some old Dutch Navy boats, and you can go dive around. You can go snorkel around them. You find out you can snorkel around. There's dead conchs and stuff like that. And boy, it's one little boat was snorkeling up in there. It had a big old hole in the side, like it got gouged out by hitting something really big, and it was about half down in the water. You could swim right off in the boat. And through all the rust holes in the boat, there was sunlight shining into the boat. And so you could see in there pretty good, but it was a little darker down in the water. I was a little braver and a little dumber then. I remember Ronnie and them was outside the boat, and Rachel, they were all just kind of floating, enjoying themselves. And I decided I was snorkeling around. And I saw this little baby shark, and I thought, man, I want to follow him, see where he's going. So I followed this little baby shark, and baby shark, do 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 do, baby shark. Tell him that. Damn, that's gonna be stuck. I shouldn't have done that. Damn, I shouldn't have done that. Baby shark. All right. I swam off in this little boat. This big boat. Big old, I think it was a Dutch freighter or something. And I follow this little shark. He's going off in this boat. I want to see where the little shark's going. I'm hoping I can see more little sharks. It doesn't dawn on me that I might run across a big shark. I don't even think about that. I just want to see where baby shark's going. See if I see some more baby sharks. I think it's pretty cool. I love snorkeling. I'm following him in there, and my little flippers are going. And get off of that boat, it gets a lot darker, man. You can see little streams of sunlight shooting down in the water. Now, Aruba has some of the best visibility in the world for snorkeling. It has like 90-foot visibility underwater. I can't see where this little shark's going, but there's this little dark area just a little farther than where I am. And I slowly kind of float up that dark area, and I can kind of see something in there. Like I was telling you about them animals with their eyes that pick up light, and our eyes don't pick up, and they light up a little bit. Looks like a pair of eyes, but I got a sense of foreboding. Like all of a sudden, I was like, "Ooh, you're in somebody else's territory. You know, you're on rented land right now. You're on somebody else's property." It was that kind of feeling, like when you see a purple mark on a tree, some purple spray paint on a tree. You're like, "Oh, I'm on the wrong property." You know, I don't know if y'all have that in other places. Texas, if you jacking around in the woods and you come up purple spray paint on trees, you better get your you on private property. I mean, no trust, you get your ass out. It was like that. It was like I saw a purple mark on a tree all of a sudden in my mind. And I said, boy, I don't know. And I started kind of pushing myself back from the darkness. And I never seen an eel up close before, but this type of eel, whatever it was, they kind of sit back in a hole, and if a fish comes by, they shoot out and bite that fish. Well, I guess I was just interested enough for him to shoot, and he shot out, and all I saw was a mouth with teeth and this crazy snake fish coming at me. And yeah, I hollered, boy, Ronnie said it looked like I was swimming on top of the water when I come out of that boat. He said it didn't look like it looked like the only thing touching the water. He said you had your front end up in the air like a ski boat trying to get out of that boat and flippers just to go. Last time I done swam off in a abandoned boat though, I guarantee I won't do that mess no more. Yeah, like, this is crazy. Like I just have these lists of stories. I'm just figuring out how to tie them together and how to roll. This is kind of fun. It's almost like a stand-up set. Rachel broke the contour. Oh shit. Yeah. We just had a conversation about this on the porch. Rachel still denies. It's back in the Ford Contour days, baby. One day, the Mazda was broke down. I was doing a fuel pump on the Mazda. And when I was working at David's transmission shop, Rachel, of course, worked over at the comedy club. She had to go into work and do some stuff, and I just gave her the keys. We moved in together. I gave her the keys to Contour, man. Just take Contour to work. She goes on, does what she needs to do. She goes to work that day. She comes home and she's like, "Babe, your car is acting up. It's acting real weird. I don't know what's going on with it. It's acting up." She didn't tell me anything about what happened. I said, "Well, did anything happen?" She said, "Well, I hit a little pothole in Washington's. I figured she knocked a bouncer off a tire, something. Anything, no big deal." Now I've heard a new version of this story since. I just heard a new version I never heard, but I just figured no big deal. She knocked a bouncer off a wheel, whatever. So your car is acting up, babe. I said, "Well, I got to go in to the transmission shop in the morning. It's too rough. I'll get David put it on the lift. We'll figure out what's wrong with it." I don't really think nothing else about it. We go on and enjoy our evening. I get up the next morning. I go out there and get my car. And I remember telling me, "Oh, there's something going on with your car." But I think, like I said, I'm thinking like a wheel balancer, nothing else. Contour's a little front wheel drive car. There's a couple things you don't expect a front wheel car to do. You don't expect screeching noises from the rear tires at any given time, and you don't expect a front wheel drive car to fishtail. It's not in their nature. But I pull out of our driveway and go to hang the left on TC Jester, and immediately end up doing about half a 360 in the middle of TC Jester. The car just spun around. What the shit? The car straightened up. I start driving on the transmission shop. But anytime I try to turn right, it's like it's in a bind and it does something weird and starts hopping. But if I try to turn left, the whole ass end of the car tries to slide out from underneath me. Now she drove it after this happened, so I'm assuming she didn't have to take no left turns, or I'd got a phone call. I get over the shop, I jump out of the Contour, and Dave's like, "What's wrong?" I said, "I think Rachel wrecked my car or something. I don't know what's going on with it." I said, "This damn thing's fishtailing all over TC Jester. I couldn't figure it out." He goes, "Well, it's probably that." And I get out and walk around to the other side of the car, and the back wheel, where the rest of the wheels are lined up with the car like this, the back passenger wheel is doing this. It's like back off in the fender and pointing the wrong direction. It's not in agreement with the rest of the car anymore. I said, damn. What the hell? Like, I think everything's broke with it, you know? Dave goes, bring it here and put it on the lift, man. We put it on the lift and get that thing raised up. And David said, what'd she say happened? I said, she told me she had a pothole. We're looking up at this thing, and on the rear end of them contour, there's just it's like a strut arm on the back of that wheel. There's a strut arm that goes up and connects to the frame and or the chassis or whatever the hell, you know. And that strut arm is bent in like this, and that tire is just in like that. I said, damn, what the hell am I going to do about that? They said, well, he said, you go over to the wrecking yard, look for another one of them, but I don't. Boy, you probably going to have a hell of a time getting that off. It's a lot of shit you got to take off and get that loose. He said, I got an idea. David runs off in his builder shop, comes back out with this big ass hammer. And I was like, what's your idea? He goes, we're going to beat that son of a bitch out. And David just starts waylaying on that strut arm. And sure enough, we beat that son of a 50 back out straight, you know. Drive the car home. Of course, talked to her. What the hell happened, baby? You said you thought there was something wrong with the car. The car wouldn't drive in a straight line anymore. What did you hit? I didn't hit anything. Are you sure? We're like a new couple. I don't want to pressure her too hard, but I'm like, I kind of feel like maybe you hit something. This day, she swears she didn't hit it. What she says happened, and it is plausible. I will say that as a car person who's worked on cars, it's plausible. Doesn't feel probable, but give her the benefit of the doubt since she's my sweet lady, and she has no reason to tell me falsehoods. But it is possible what she said happened. She said she was following a mail truck, and the mail truck slammed on the brakes on Washington Avenue. Now, Washington Avenue in Houston, well known for all its potholes. It's a really jacked up road. But said when she hit the brakes, that she hit the pothole with the back wheel. And when she hit the pothole, that slammed her into the curb, and the curb hit the back wheel. And she didn't drive it a lot after that. She just had to go on to work and come home. And she said, it just wasn't doing all that stuff you said it was doing. It didn't do all that for me. And boy, this day, I don't know how she got that damn car home with that wheel. I don't know if it got worse the more she drove it, or did when she pulled it in the driveway, is that when the strut arm said, or did she just somehow get it home and just like, oh, it's probably not a big deal. It wasn't no damn tire bouncer, though, I tell you that. Bent the piss out of that arm. It was a first trust exercise in a young relationship right there. Like, yeah, well, you wrecked my car. She's like, I did not wreck your car. I hit a pothole and a curb. I was like, well, you didn't tell me about the curb first time you told me the story. First time it was a pothole. Now it's a pothole and a curb. She's going to be editing all this, so she may correct this. You never know. I'm sure she'll have her own response. I enjoyed telling you guys about. I love talking about that little house, that little time period. You know, as you gathered, we were having a good time, man. We were learning to be who we turned out to be. You know. One of my favorite David stories I didn't tell y'all last week happened around that time period. I know I've told you guys about the committee of Tree Fitty. Where me and my friends would get together every Friday night. Only rule was you had to wear a silly hat. We would play poker out there in my garage. Various nights. Game of poker get a little out of hand, get drink. I told you about the Jack Russell that accidentally got drunk. I think I've told you me and my buddy Steve one night chewed up a bunch of mushrooms. Not helpful in poker. Not a performance enhancing. Not a ped for poker. Mushrooms. Uh, I tell you about my neighbor next door. His wife would yell. We could hear her yelling and screaming at him in the house. And then he'd come out there, hey, you guys quiet down a little bit. And we were probably, it's just a little one car garage. We're cutting up. We're having a good time. We got the garage door open. It's facing the street. And we're cutting up. And here comes old dude next door. Hey, can you guys quiet it down? And he goes back inside and his wife screams and hollers at him for a while. Of course, we're continuing to get drunker by the minute. We're having us a fine old time, playing poker, talking shit, swapping lies. You know, it's a good old boys poker game, four of us. And at some point, we notice HPD pulls in the neighborhood and they pull right up to the foot of my driveway and they sit there with their windows down. I know somebody called in a noise complaint. It's probably there's this old broad that lived across the street that had a crush on my father-in-law, and my father-in-law told me that she looked like a mud fence. And he didn't have no, but that woman was creepy. She was always trying. She had a gay son that used to do jazzercise in the bay window with the window shades open every day. But she was one of the ones that was always telling our landlord stuff, like they were old buddies, and she was always telling her all kind of crap about us and everything we was up to. I figured she's probably the one calling the law on us, man. So, sure, it's either her or his old henpecked Henry next door. Our neighbors to the left of us were actually really cool. They were pretty cool people. They had just moved in. We got along with them real well. Man, I keep trying to itch my ear and forgetting there's a hearing aid in there. We're having a grand old time, man, playing poker, cutting up. Here comes the law. Johnny Law comes in there, sits at the end of the driveway. I guess they decide we're not being loud enough, so they drive off. Of course, we quiet down while the law's there. Nobody's trying to get arrested. When the night goes on, we get a little drunker. Well, an hour or two later, here comes that same HVD car. Pulls up the end of the driveway, rolls the window down. Of course, we quiet down. Calm down. And my buddy David, he's a little boisterous when he gets a little alcohol in him. He don't even drink these days, but he's a little boisterous when he gets a little alcohol in him. And we all got a lot in us. We're having us a good ass time, man. Just one of them good ass Friday nights. We're having us a good time. It's probably midnight, close to 1 o'clock. We're pretty lit. Our game of poker has now devolved into Mexican poker. I don't know if you know what Mexican poker is, but I don't either. All I do know is that for whatever reason, it goes something like that. This is how drunk I was. I can't remember how the game is played, but you draw a card and you stick the card face out. You lick the card, you stick the card face out on your forehead so that everybody else at the table can see what card you have. And then you make bets based on whether or not you think you can beat their card based on what other people's cards are. Well, last thing in the world you want to do is pretty clear when you draw a two because everybody's like, yeah, I got you. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I'll take you. And David, bless his heart, about 3 rounds in a row, David done picked up a two and put a two on his forehead. Well, come about that time, we're cutting up and laughing. David's got a two on his head again. We're being really loud, and here comes old HVD right to the bottom of the driveway again, openly looking in there with their windows down. And David gets his dander up. David goes, I'm sick of these some bitches. I'm gonna go give them a piece of my mind, ask them what the hell their problem is. And David jumps up from the table and he's marching down that driveway to go tell these Law what's what. He's gonna go straighten Johnny Law out, tell him what's what. He's had enough of them. And he gets about halfway down the driveway, and both them cops crack up laughing and speed off. And David turns around and looks at us, and that damn two of spades is still stuck to the front. He said, I got a GD2 on my head, don't I love David, boy. Those were good times. Man, do I got any more stories about that? Is there any more in here? Oh, the Honda seatbelt. I got to tell you about the time the Honda tried to kill me with a seatbelt. I forgot to tell that when I was doing the Honda story. I had two, boy. Oh, the Adderall story. We'll tell the Adderall story and the Hondas. We'll go. We'll just wipe that house out right now. Rachel and I first moved in together. I mean, no dad is probably happy when his daughter moves in with a dude she's not married to. I mean, he was kind of a conservative old cowboy, a little bit. I mean, a little bit of a hippie, but I'm sure he had some feelings about it. He was sure watching me close. And he stayed with us all. But when we first moved in that house, he stayed with us for a while he was in between places. And he was helping us out, do all kind of things on the house. And house needed a lot of work when we first moved in. It was stuff I still didn't know how to do. And he was sort of teaching me in between being irritated with me for not knowing. And but the one thing, if you've been in when you're first in love and you're in a new relationship, is trying to get that ass as much as you can. And we were having a good time doing that, boy. There was a lot of good loving happening in that house. We was young and beautiful, and I mean, she's still beautiful, but I was young and beautiful then. And I had, at that time, I had a 27-year-old back, and that back could do some work, man. And we just, and 27-year-old other parts too, you know. Ones that, boy, just a good breeze blow through the house. And I was, mother, I was ready. One night during a very spirited lovemaking session, we had an accidental dismount, and I broke my penis. Did you know you can do that? You can break out some. You can take what looks like a sturdy, curvy, wonderful little member, and you can bend it sideways just like a bad speed square. You probably got a little pain just now, just thinking about it. Just all of a sudden, it's not going the right direction anymore, and it hurts. Mm. When I tell you it hurts, it hurts. I know what's wrong with me. That ain't the kind of thing boy, I don't know about that. Rachel and I decided to run over to the ER, and Rachel takes me to the ER that night. Her dad's out doing other stuff. We go to the ER, and of course, it's late at night. ER doctor, he's like, "You're gonna be fine, but you need to go see a urologist." They said, "We can't do anything for you here." He said, "But you need some medicine. You need some treatment. You need to go see a urologist. But you're gonna be all right." This, what happens? I forgot what even happened, but I messed something up in there, and he said, "You need to go see a urologist." He said, "But definitely no sex, no masturbation. You're injured." Or hell, I don't know what the hell a urologist is at that point in my life. And Rachel's dad grew up in that neighborhood we was living in. It's called Oak Forest, the old Houston neighborhood. And he grew up in that area. He knew the area real well. Me and Rachel sort of talking in the hallway that morning while she's in the bathroom. And I guess her dad just happened to be listening. And I said, "Man, I don't know how to find a damn urologist. Where I go look for a urologist? I need to go do something." She's like, "I don't know, baby." And here come Pop. "Hey, fella, you need a urologist." Hell, I've been going to the same urologist for this guy right on down the road, man. I've been seeing him, since I was a teenager. I can take you over there. I said, no, no. He gives me a number. I call over there, make an appointment, and Ken says, this is back when I had the XS 750, the Yamaha. Ken says, boy, you don't need to. I'm gonna be riding now. If you're having pain down there, I didn't tell him what was going on. I just said I was having some strange pain. I went to the ER and they told me I need to go see a urologist. I did not tell him I broke my penis having sex with his unwed daughter. You know, it's not the conversation I wanted to lead with. He's like, no, I know a urologist, fella. Don't worry about it. So I called her to get an appointment. And then before I know it, Ken's like, man, let me give you a ride. I know Rachel's got to go to work. I'll give you a ride over to the urologist. I was like, oh, that's all right. I'll probably just take the motorcycle. He's like, oh, you don't want to ride that motorcycle. You have pain down there, son. Let me give you a ride. And I'm looking at Rachel the whole time, like, are we just letting this happen? Is this what's happening right now? And she don't say nothing. She just leaves me in it because she don't want to explain to her dad what happened to me either. She's still daddy's little girl. And I was like, all right, I guess this is going down. I'm just gonna get in the truck with your dad and go over here to this urologist he knows and explain to him that I broke my wing giving it to his daughter. I guess that's what's happening. This is what's happening. Okay, this is what's happening. I follow Ken out there. I get in that truck. Now I gotta tell you, Ken's a cowboy, man. He got a knife in every compartment on that truck and probably a gun too. He's a scary old quiet dude, man. Oh my God. And he drives me over to this urologist. And luckily, they called me back, and Ken just sits in the waiting room. He ain't got no interest in coming back there and being in my business. He was a private man, was allowing me such, and I felt a little relief. It's like, oh, I'm probably going to be all right. So I go back there, I meet this urologist, I explain to him what's happened. He's an older guy. He gets a little chuckle. He goes, "Yeah, it happens. It's not a big deal. It ain't like Peyronie's disease or anything like that." He said, "But you're gonna have to take these anti-inflammatories, and you're gonna have to rest that thing, son, for about 30 days. You about 30 days of rest retirement. You don't touch it. You don't look at it. You don't think nothing about it. You don't let her touch it neither." He said, "I got a pharmacy right here. Gals will fix you up, get you medicine. You'll be all right." I walk out of his office feeling better, feeling like, hey man, I ain't got to fess up on nothing here. This worked out pretty swimmingly, and I walk in a little pharmacy to get my broke dick medicine. They fill it for me. It's ready to go. Come out of the pharmacy. Old Doc has come out, and boy, I wish I could remember that doctor's name. Old Doc's come out, and him and Ken are talking old times. Boy, they ain't seen each other in a minute. Now I start getting that nervous feeling again. And I come walking up, and I don't know what happened with this doctor that he forgot what my last name was and Ken's last name was. But at some point, he decided in his head that I was Ken's son. And he good old boyed my future father in law. Right there in that, he goes, well, I tell you what, boy, that thing he's dating, she must be a hot little number. She must be a hot ticket, that girl. He done wore that thing out and broke it, boy. She must be a hot little number. I told him he's gonna be all right. You're gonna have to take a break, son. You can't be climbing on that gal every night. My father-in-law, my future father-in-law, is not blinking. He's no longer blinking. And I'm petrified. This doctor just goes on, claps us both on the back, and walks away. And I just remember Ken gave me a very terse, "Are you ready, fella?" "Yeah, ready for what, Ken?" I called him Pop. "Ready for what, Pop?" So I remember walking across that parking lot in his truck. He had a 98 3/4 ton Chevrolet, 99 3/4 ton Chevrolet, beautiful truck, dark blue. Boy, I didn't want to get in that truck. Oh, I wanted to do anything else in the world but get in that damn truck. And I walked out there and I got in that truck, a kid. Boy, that was the quietest drive home. That drive was so quiet. You could hear there's no music playing. You could hear the lifters ticking in the engine, just tick, 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 tick. Good old GMT 800 type shit. Tick, tick, tick. Old 6 liters, they tick away. Just listen to them lifter tick and looking for landmarks to make sure we're actually going home and he's not taking me to the ship channel to throw me off the bridge. And this is a testament to how cool my father-in-law really was, and I miss him every day. We lost him back 2015, 2016, 2015. But he never said another word about it. We got out of the truck. He said, "Did he get you fixed up, fella?" "Yes, sir." And he never brought it up again. I am not that cool. That's how cool you are. He never brought it up again in life. I am not that cool. I'm telling you, if I was in his situation, I don't think I would have handled it so well. I am not that cool. But he never brings it up again, ever in life. And a few weeks later, we're still working on that house. We're trying to get that house ready. At the time, I'm bartending at night at the Last Stop Comedy Club. And during the day, I'm spending my days working on the house with Pop. At the time, my brother-in-law was helping us out a little bit. We're running surround sound, speaker wires, and wallpapering and painting rooms and just doing all that. We're redoing everything in the kitchen. And I was running a little ragged. You bartend at night, you're working during the day, you start burning that candle at both ends, you start getting a little ragged. Pop used to take this medicine called Adderall. I didn't know nothing about an Adderall. I wasn't an Adderall type of dude. Never had no Adderall before. Pop says, "You look like a dragon, fella. Why don't you take one of these?" He gives me one of them Adderalls. He said, "But just take half." Well, shit. I look like a take half kind of guy. I look like I took half of anything ever in my life or ate half of anything in my life. I'm not a take half kind of guy. I'm a big old American winning machine with a furious spirit. You don't need to tell me how to take my drugs. I'm not a take half kind of guy. I popped that whole Adderall. Boy, I got off in that kitchen now. Start trying to fix this kitchen drawer that's not lining up right with the cabinets. Some old slide-in drawers with the rails on them, and I'm trying to fix this kitchen drawer, and I can't get it to close right and really line up right with the cabinet. And I keep fussing with this kitchen drawer. Boy, before you know it, just it seems like the only thing I can think about is this kitchen drawer, and I can't get this kitchen drawer to line up. All I want is this kitchen drawer to line up, and I fussed with this kitchen drawer until I made myself late for work. I looked up at the clock. Oh crap, I'm late for work. I run, throw my clothes on, and I jump on that motorbike and I start heading to the laugh stop to go bartend. But the whole way I'm riding that motorbike to laugh stop, all I can think about is kitchen drawer. How do I fix that kitchen drawer? I need to straighten out that kitchen drawer. Kitchen drawer. All I can think about is this kitchen drawer. I get into work, I'm setting up the bar, and Jack Daniels here, and the vodka here, and the whiskey here, and kitchen drawer. I'm setting up my bar. All I can think about is this kitchen drawer. How much I want to go home and work on this kitchen drawer. And I start serving customers, and all I can think about is kitchen drawer, kitchen drawer, kitchen drawer. And then my boss Pete says, "Man, what's up with you? You kind of weird tonight. You seem distracted." And I'm just like, "Kitchen drawer, man. I got a kitchen drawer I'm trying to fix at the house. I need to fix this kitchen drawer." And he's like, "Well, stop thinking about the damn kitchen drawer. Do your job." And I said, "You know what? F you, kitchen drawer. I quit." Because all my brain could think about was how to fix that freaking kitchen drawer. I quit, Pete. You can kiss my ass. And I was so happy walking out of the lap stop. I'm gonna get on that motorcycle. I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna fix that kitchen drawer. All the way home, kitchen drawer. Kitchen drawer. I'm gonna fix this kitchen drawer. That Adderall's cooking me, man. Let's fix this kitchen drawer. And I pull up in the driveway and I get off my motorbike and I walk in the house so excited to tackle the kitchen drawer. And I walk in the kitchen and Pop has fixed the kitchen drawer while I was gone. And then my brain turned inside out for a little while and I was awake for a long time that night, thinking all kind of awful shit about him because he fixed my kitchen drawer. And then I remembered that I broke my penis having sex with his unwed daughter and decided to call it even. Kitchen drawer. I was out there working on that stinking Honda Accord in that driveway one day. And I forgot to tell y'all this way that Honda Accord had them automatic seat belts. And I'd already had trouble. One day I stopped in traffic, tried to spit my dip out, and the automatic seatbelt just about strangled me in traffic. But I was up and down. I was under the Honda and up and down, under the Honda, under the Honda. I think I was maybe changing a CV joint on it or something. But I had to do something where I had to reach off in that car and turn the key on. And I was kind of like half sitting under the car. And I leaned up into the driver's side, opened the driver's door and leaned up into the driving compartment and reached up there and turned that key on. And when I turned that key on, that seatbelt grabbed me by the neck and started strangling me. I just remember, I was flopping. My little legs was kicking. I was trying to get that seatbelt off my damn blasted neck. And how if you die on account of a Honda Accord, boy, there ain't no coming back for that. I mean, there usually ain't when you die anyway. But boy, that's not what you want on your tombstone. Killed by a Honda Accord, you know. That was a good house, man. It was a good time. It was a good time to be alive. Now, I told y'all a bunch of stories about that Yukon. You know, the Yukon had two lives. The Yukon was Rachel's car, and then it was mine. And when it was mine, I had a different life. That's when I was doing comedy, and I was really pushing my career. And none of y'all know I have Crohn's disease, man. So when I gotta go to the bathroom, I gotta go to the bathroom. There ain't no waiting. And I got really excited because I got hired to do my very first TV commercial ever. And don't know what happened to it. It was like an industry commercial for Schlumberger. But in the commercial, some of you that have been following for a while know I played a geologist in the commercial. And I was all excited. It was my first time on set. It's my first time being a part of something real. And boy, I was just tickled to death. And I have some food sensitivities, but I don't like to bring them up, man, because it just feels awkward. You know, like you don't want to be the guy like I'm allergic to this, and I'm allergic to that. And you should advocate for yourself. You should take care of yourself. But I just always hated being that dude. A lot of times when they shoot stuff now, especially when they film stuff in Houston, rather than build a studio or a studio set, they'll just go rent an Airbnb house and film in that Airbnb house. And this shoot was no exception. That's what they did to keep costs down. They rented this Airbnb house, and that's where we were shooting our commercial. First day on set, I'm super excited. We're part of something real. And the downstairs is where they had all the equipment set up, the sound guys and the lighting guys, and all these guys. And my buddy Adam Taylor and his buddy are helping direct. Well, there's another director. He's really cool, but then Adam Taylor and these guys are helping with the lights. That's how I got the gig. And I kind of know some people there, so I feel kind of comfortable. My good friend Lisa, who I went to Africa with, she's a stand-up comic. She's in the commercial with me. So it's a cool deal, man. I feel comfortable. I'm on set first time, but I'm working with somebody I'm already comfortable with and I already get along with really well. And the whole upstairs is where they kind of like got like a little green room for us where we can change clothes and stuff like that. But it's just old 2-story house and old part of Houston over in Third Ward, and not everything in those houses is operational apparently. Comes lunchtime, they say, "Hey man, we're gonna do lunch orders for everything. We're gonna go get something called banh mi." Now I don't know what banh mi is, but it's explained to me is some type of Vietnamese sandwich, like a club sandwich, a hero sandwich. You know, I said, man, I said, just get me one with chicken on it. They got some options, chicken and beef and such like that. And I said, no, you know what? Give me the beef. Give me the beef banh mi sandwich. Now I can't tell you what all is on a Vietnamese banh mi sandwich with beef on it, but something in there triggered me. I ate that sandwich, went upstairs, just kind of hang out in the green room. I was waiting for everybody else to break from lunch. We come down, we did a couple takes, and boy, during those takes, my stomach was feeling raw, real raw. Like, I'm in bad shape. Also, in bad enough shape that I know I don't want to do this on the ground floor with everybody. I don't want to go to the bathroom down there where everybody's standing around outside. So I don't know what to do. I do know what I'm to do. I've decided that I'm gonna go to the upstairs bathroom the next time we get a break and shoot. Next time they don't need me. And sure enough, we got to a scene where they were just shooting Lisa, and they didn't need me for the scene. And they said, "You can go upstairs and relax while you're waiting to be shot again." And I headed up the stairs. Boy, I run off that bathroom. And when I tell you my ace exploded, my ace exploded. I mean, the minute I was on that, I blowed all that banh mi and everything hateful that was happening inside my guts out. It was loud. It was horrible. It was smelly. It was a whole ass situation. I get done. Wipe, go to flush. They didn't tell us that the water in the upstairs bathroom is not the upstairs of the house doesn't have water. Now I have this horrible smelly mess. And I start panicking. I'm cussing like shit. What you gonna do? Shit, shit, shit. So I run off in one of them rooms. They had a bunch of them water bottles for us. So I grab a bunch of water bottles. I start pouring them in the tank of that toilet, trying to flush this crap. It takes about 5 or 6 water bottles to get it all down. And by the time it's done, I'm sweating. It's hot. It's in summertime. I'm sweating and like, and they call me down, and I'm like, oh, it must be my time to shoot again. And I go down the stairs, and the sound guy is just grinning at me, and Adam's grinning at me, and everybody's just grinning at me that's involved with the sound people. And I go, hey, what's up? Is it my turn to shoot again? He goes, no, but I forgot to unmic you. What's that? He said, yeah, I forgot to unmic you. You've been mic'd this whole time. He said, you want me to save the recording from the last 10 minutes? And they all fall out. I'm like, no, thanks. This is the most embarrassing day of my life. Appreciate that you have audio recordings of me shitting and panicking myself. This is fantastic. And then Adam's like, hey, by the way, the water's off upstairs. Yeah, no shit, Adam. That'd have been good information for this. My first day on set. This is how I take it off. I love sound guys. I always treat them very well. That sound guy. Whew. Oh boy, we're just cooking right along here. Yeah, a few more. I kind of just saved this stuff for the end. Me and me and Lisa did go to Africa together. We went to man, how many countries did we go to? We went to entertain the military. Um, my buddy Slade Ham put it all together, and another guy named Chase DeRusso out of New York, really funny comic. We went to Qatar, however you want to call it, and and we went to Ethiopia, we went to Niger, and we went to Egypt, and we went to Kenya, and we went to Djibouti. That trip was a trip, bro. I got a lot of stories from that trip. Uh, some of them I tell on stage, not all of them. One of the funniest things is when we got to Egypt, we didn't know. So we went to this place in Egypt called Sharm el Sheikh. Sharm el Sheikh's like a big resort area on the. Is it on the Red Sea, the Dead Sea, Red Sea? It's on one of them seas. It's a big resort area. There's a big natural reef out there. It's a beautiful, high class resort hotel. Most of the time on that trip, we were staying in military, uh, like in military on the base and stuff like that. But for this part of the trip, we got one night in a really nice hotel in this resort in Sharm el Sheikh. And what we didn't know is that Sharm el Sheikh for Russians is like Destin, Florida, but back when it was cheap and rednecky, you know, it's like Tampa, you know, and it's like a cheap place for these Russians with a little bit of money to go. It's very cheap there. You can get you a 1 bedroom apartment for beautiful downtown for like 500 American bucks a month. Very cheap. Our money goes far there, and it seems like most of the people there are Russian. It's all Egyptian people working at the hotel, but everybody else is Russian. And I'm telling you, the buffet is designed. Russians got the worst buffets than anybody in the world, right? Like it's just a bunch of cold cuts and a whole lot of smelly fish. And it's just weird. And the Russians are rude. They're really rude to Lisa. They're not polite to women at all. And then the Muslim men, of course, not very polite to her at all. So we're constantly having to deal with that shit. And these Russians are very. Now I don't, I never been to Russia, so I don't know how they're at when they're at home. But when they're on vacation, they are very, very confident, overly confident in their bodies. I have never seen so many speedos in my life on large men where you could barely see the speedo, and a lot of 2 piece bathing suits on women that you couldn't see all the 2 piece bathing suit. Very confident people in their bodies. Very, I give them that. They must do not be fat shaming in Russia because these people were very confident and they were everywhere, all over this resort. I didn't really have any beef with the Russian people other than I saw Red Dawn when I was a kid and I grew up during the 80s and Reagan and all the Cold War scares and being taught how to do, nuclear drills by rolling around, stop, dropping, and rolling or whatever, hiding under the desk in case of a nuclear bomb. Other than that, I remember when one of them coming through a shoe at the president or something, and like didn't really, but did have like, outside of Rambo 3 and Red Dawn, I didn't have a lot of beef against the Russians. I thought we're kind of cool with them these days. Uh, Maybe not these days, but it felt like there was a cool period for a while. These people changed my view of the Russian people. Uh, in the middle of this hotel, there was this, it looked like a Willy Wonka elevator. It's like a glass elevator. It looks like a pointy on top with like a little gold point, and it goes up in the middle of the hotel. And you can see out there, and it's a very small elevator. It's like that little, it's like the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, type shit. And all the food and stuff is down the lower level, like beach level, but all the rooms start at like level 6 or level 7 and up. So when you leave like the eating area, you have to get on the elevator, and you have to go up to like 6 or 7 to get to the floor to get to your room. And I get done eating breakfast. I go to what eating breakfast, lunch. I get done eating lunch. I go up the elevator to go up to my room, and this dude that I can only describe as looking like Bluto from the Popeye cartoons. This Russian Bluto wearing a speedo and nothing else except a pair of little tiny goggles on top of his big head gets on the elevator with me. And, Russians don't show a lot of emotion, a lot of them. And this elevator starts going up. We start the first floor. We get about second floor, and this dude drops ass in the elevator. Just like, yeah, I couldn't see a speedo, but if I could see it, I know it would have been just a like a reed in a wind instrument. You know what I mean? Like he's playing the clarinet with that booger. Drops ass, man. I just look at this dude like, come on, man. You gonna pretend like that just didn't happen? And he looks back down at me and he goes, "What?" I go, "What, man? You just dropped ass in this little tiny ass elevator, man. We gotta go all the way to the seventh floor, and you just dropped ass in this tiny." I'm gagging now. It's bad. And he just starts laughing like a Von Drago and Rocky Ford is. What is wrong with you? Damn. And we get up to the seventh floor. Not only did he drop ass in the elevator, he tries to walk off the elevator before me. I'm like, hey, get your ass behind me. And I get off that elevator. He just walks off to his room like, so I'm back on Rocky's side. F the Russians. All it took was one. Wolverines never die. Some shit like that. Don't go to Sharm el Sheikh, Egypt, if you're looking for a non-Russian good time. Also, do not try Russian bourbon. That's the worst shit I ever put in my life. That's all they had there was Russian alcohol, and I asked for a bourbon. They gave me Russian bourbon that I think was based off McCormick's. It was the worst shit I ever had in my life. Whew. Man, I've told y'all, a lot of stories about my dad. My dad had almost killed me a handful of times. My dad's a calm, laid back dude now, but that's not the dude that raised me. But he had a sense of humor too. But the old man was hard. He was hard to work on cars with, man. He was a yelling. I had a yelling boss for a dad. He'd get mad and holler and throw tools. And back then, it used to feel like my punishment. I always got made work on shit with him. But I know now it's because his dad didn't really teach him a lot of shit, and his father-in-law taught him a bunch of shit, and he didn't want me to end up like him with somebody else having to teach me shit. So he was. And unfortunately, I did learn most of my shit from other people because I didn't listen to him. He's my dad. You don't listen to your dad. There's a couple times he almost took. One time on purpose, I think, and then two times on accident. One time we was trying to break an axle nut on my Volkswagen, my Super Beetle, and I don't, the axle nuts on that Super Beetle were 36 millimeter. It's a big old nut. And you have to turn it against the direction of the way the car wheel spins, which means you have to find a way to lock the transaxle. And then you have to find something big enough in a 36 millimeter socket, which is kind of hard to come by back then. And you got to try to pry these axle nuts loose. And this was a non-running car; it didn't have an engine in it. We're trying to get these axles apart, so we couldn't. A lot of people, I've seen people use the car's weight and stuff to do it, but we had it in the garage. And Dad's rigged up this setup, man. I was about 15, 16 years old. And Dad's got a big old 3/4 inch ratchet, a 36 millimeter socket on the axle nut. And he's got a cheater pipe on that with a smaller cheater pipe stuck inside that cheater pipe. And I think at the very end, there was a little old jack handle off a little old AutoZone jack or something, was the last cheater pipe. And we've been trying to get these axle nuts off all day. We weren't having no luck. Dad rigs this Dr. Seuss contraption up of these long connected cheater pipes. And what's going to happen is the Volkswagen's up on jack stands. I'm going to jump off the running board of the Volkswagen onto the cheater pipe with both feet. and that's going to be enough to pop this thing loose. And Dad's going to stand down there at the ratchet, make sure the ratchet and the socket stays on the axle. Now, it sounds like some Wile E. Coyote shit, don't it? And I jump off that damn running board of that Volkswagen onto that little jack handle, and all them cheater pipes bend and build up a good amount of tension and stress. And then that jack handle slips out from under my feet and shoots straight up in the air and hits me in the head. Just boop. I remember I was like spinning around looking for shit to grab onto to keep from going down. I hit the ground, a bump. And of course, the jack handle also hit the ceiling, made a big old loud noise. And my mama opens the door. Oh my God, you killed my baby. My dad's like, no, he did it. He ain't going to take the blame for it. We're just trying to get the accident. I don't know what the hell happened to her. He's always jerking and jiving, doing something. Oh, how he hurt himself. Boy, I had a big old goose egg. Yeah, he knocked me stupid. Boy, it almost took me out, man. And one time they was living in Louisiana. I was there visiting them. And my mom had a first gen Ford Taurus. And my dad was working on the brakes on the Ford Taurus. And if you back out of their carport, and cut your wheels to the left, you'd straighten up and go out there. They had a real long driveway. They lived off in Pineville, Louisiana, a little old neighborhood at the time. And right on the side of that driveway, where there's a big old pine tree. Probably why they called it Pineville, maybe. Me and Dad did the brakes on the Taurus. He goes to get into the old Taurus, give it a test drive. We take it down off the ramps, all that good stuff, all the jack stands. And he goes to get in the Taurus, give it a test drive. And I'm standing there back there by that tree, and I'm talking on the phone to this little girl I'm trying to impress, telling her I'm going to come pick her up and that sort of thing. And my dad thought it'd be funny to scare me. So when he backed that Taurus out of the carport, before he got all the way straightened up, he floored it. When he went to mash on the brakes, he realized he had not pumped up the brakes yet. The brakes didn't work at all. And luckily, I moved out of the way just in time for him to slam that Taurus in the back of that truck. Bam! What that truck? And boy, he went throwing a fit just because of God, Jesus, Mom, he's cursing and hollering, and swearing at the sun. I'm like, you almost killed me just now. And in the middle of his fit, this explains him and my mom's relationship in a way, because Rachel does the same thing for me now. When I start getting too wound up, she's the one that can straighten me out. And you just hear my mom, she got the window open in the kitchen. She hollers out the window, tell your daddy that I didn't take the comprehensive insurance off the car last week like he wanted me to. I forgot to call him. It's fine. Stopped his. What? We got insurance. Oh, boy, you okay? Boy, you okay? we had some we had some bumps when I was a teenager, man. Back when I was driving that little 72 Ford I told y'all about, I used to I was a teenager, man. I was getting in trouble. I was doing things I wasn't supposed to do, and I'll never forget one night, boy. I come home and it was a good ways past curfew. I had not made it home in time for curfew. In fact, I had decided to stay out late because, well, I just thought I could get away with it. And I was slick, buddy. This one we lived on Tammany Lane. I told you I Truck was big block. It had headers, cherry bombs. You could hear it in the next county. I start coming down Tammany Lane. And I drop that truck in neutral and I shut that engine off. Coasted all the way to the driveway. No power steering. Cut that big old wheel. Rolled that truck up in the driveway. It was quiet as a mouse. Hit them brakes. Throwed it in gear. Set the emergency brake. That driver door made a loud noise when you opened it. So I climbed down the bench seat. Got out the passenger side. Shut that door real quiet. Get the keys. My door key ready. Now, I wasn't drinking or anything. I was just a dumb teenager staying out too late. Put that key in the door real slow. Wiggle it, like you're a safe cracker. Wiggle that key a little bit till it gives. Unlock that door. I turn that door handle real slow. The door just creaks just a little bit. Step in the house and I turn around and I close that door real soft. And right when I click that lock, a hand gets me right here. Gets the wall. It's my dad, buck naked except for his tidy whities, and he's got a pistol in his hand. He said, "Boy, next time you come in this house, you need to make a little noise." Boy, I never tried to sneak back in that son of a 50 again. No, he's there. The old man nearly shot me, boy. I got so much trouble with that old pickup, boy. There was this cop, man, back in the day, hung around Elsick. Officer Pennington. Officer Pennington was a good old boy. His wife was a coach there at the high school, Coach Pennington. She was a sweet lady. Officer Pennington, boy, he'd catch me out there hot rodding that truck. He'd hang paper on me every chance he got, boy. Parents were all pissed. I done got a couple tickets. My parents were pissed at me. And one day I was pulling out of the high school, boy. I threw that old Ford first gear and just roasted them tires. Took off down Derry Ashford. Boy, I didn't even get a mile, boy. There's that old blue Caprice behind me. It's old Officer Pennington. He had a flat top and big old bush mustache and mirror glasses. Pulls me over in a little neighborhood. He come up there. I think I started crying. Please, Officer Pennington, don't get me. No, man, I told you. I caught you messing up one more time. He'd already pulled me up a couple times, gave me a warning. I told you, I caught you messing up one more time. I was going to hang paper on you, boy. I told you. I caught you messing up one more time. I was going to hang paper on you. Yes, sir. Don't cry now. He wrote me a ticket for exhibition of acceleration. Boy, I had to go home, boy. I knew I was going to have to tell my parents about that ticket, and I knew they was going to take my keys away from me, and there goes my social life for a little while. But I didn't tell them that night. I was like, boy, it's just bad news is better later. I ain't going to tell them tonight. This is why it's sometimes okay to delay bad news, because, boy, I shouldn't. My dad was in a good mood. My mom was in a good mood. I didn't want to be the one to bring them down with, hey, your son's out being a moron again. This is about to cost us some money because I got a ticket. So I didn't tell them. You know what? The next night I didn't tell them either. I kept thinking about it. Boy, I don't want to tell them. I got that old ticket yet. Court date was about a month away, month and a half away. About 2 days later, I was leaving school. Boy, I look in my rear. I'm driving normal now. I ain't doing nothing stupid. I know I'm in deep shit, and my days are numbered. Damn, if that ain't old Officer Pennington right behind me again. He follows me down Dairy Ashford way and pulls me over in another little neighborhood. My buddy Jay's with me in the truck with me. Officer Pennington comes walking up the door. He said, "What you up to today, Longmire?" I said, "Man, what you pull me over for? I didn't even do nothing wrong. All my lights are working. I wasn't racing. I wasn't." He said, "I know all that. I didn't say you did anything wrong." He said, "You got that ticket I wrote you the other day?" I said, "Yes, sir. I reach off in the glove compartment, pull that ticket out." He said, "Let me have that thing." I give him that ticket. He rips that ticket up in a bunch of pieces. He said, "I realized when I wrote that ticket, I misspelled some stuff on there. I'm going to give you a pass on this one." So, "You going to give me a pass, Officer Pennington?" He said, "Well, my wife said you just been downhearted the past couple of days. And I know you done got it home, got in trouble with your daddy and everything else. And I figure that's probably punishment enough. I don't need to cost your parents money because you're a moron. But I see you've slowed it down. That's what I wanted to see out of you all along." And I didn't have a heart to tell him I didn't bother to tell my parents about that ticket. Well, Officer Pennington was cool, man. He was a good old dude, man. I hope he went on had him a good old life. He was pretty good to us kids for all the trouble we got in back in. Well, my dad was always trying to make a point to me. I started kind of like trying to get back at my dad, man, because I was mad at him a lot when I was young, and we'd work on stuff. He'd holler at me, and everything was my damn fault. If a tool wasn't where it was supposed to be, it's my fault. If I went in there, I couldn't find the tool he wanted me to go look for. I was a dummy, couldn't open my eyes. It was just he never called me dummy, but just what's wrong with you? How can you come here and find this right here on the workbench? Just hold the light. Can you get the light out of my face? What's wrong with you? Why you always? And boy, that stuff would piss me off. And my dad, we got done working on a car, man. My dad's a neat freak, right? All his tools had to be put up in a certain organized way. He wanted everything to go in its place. Then when he got done putting all his tools up, cleaning all his tools up in the shop up, he'd go in there in the kitchen sink and he'd get that Dawn dishwashing liquid. And boy, he'd scrub him arms, scrub him fingernails. I told you like to have him clean fingernails. Have himself all ready to go to work the next day. And I started screwing with him. When I tell you I started screwing with him, he doesn't know this day. We're going to find out if he watches my podcast or not, because one of the best things I ever did to him was if he used aniseeds for anything while we were working on something, I would take a Q-tip out of my mama's bathroom and put a little aniseeds on that Q-tip. And when my dad got done cleaning all the tools up, he would wipe all his tools down before he put them in the toolbox. Sometimes I'd take that Q-tip and I'd just rub a little aniseeds on the side of his ratchet, rub a little aniseeds on a couple of his sockets. And if you've dealt with aniseeds, you know what the hell I'm talking about. That shit gets everywhere. Next time he grab that tool, boy, he go, "Damn, I know I wiped all. You've been using my tools? What the hell, man?" Man, it would be everywhere. A couple times he'd go in there and wash his hands all good, and he would always clip his fingernails when he was done washing his hands. He liked short trim. To this day, I'm the same way. He liked short trim fingernails, clean fingernails, and I'd wait till he was in there washing his hands. I'd grab his fingernail clippers, put a little aniseeds on the fingernail clippers. He'd start clipping his fingernails for. No, boy, he's in there cussing at the sink. He's got aniseeds all over him. Pissed off. It's a water out and give old man a stroke. One of my favorite ones, boy, he'd be out there, he'd be mowing the yard, and I'd be weed eating. And he would just be just yelling at me about shit and not wouldn't let me go hang out with my friends, that kind of stuff. And I'd go in there and get me a cup of water, drink me a big old cup of water. I'd take about half that cup of water when he was over there in the garage, and I'd dump it off in that gas tank on the lawnmower. Boy, I used to do that when he'd tell me to mow the yard. I'd go out there and put a little water in the gas tank. Boy, daddy, the lawnmower won't start. And he'd get out there and fuss with the lawnmower all afternoon. I'd go do whatever it is I wanted to do. He finally caught on to that one. One day he dumped the gas tank in the lawnmower. He said, "How does my damn water get in the gas tank?" And I guess I looked guilty. He said, "Next time it happens, you're going to fix the lawnmower." Yeah, I did some shit to devil him, man. He didn't like me having false equivalencies of things. He would get frustrated with me about that. I was in love with the Knight Rider car. Boy, I thought the 80, what was that, like an 87 Trans Am? I just thought that was the coolest car in the world. I wanted one so bad. My dad's like, that car's a piece of shit. Got a Pontiac 301 or 307 in it. Couldn't pull a greasy string out of a cat's ass. That car ain't worth a damn. You watch too much TV. That car ain't worth a shit. That ain't no good American muscle. All right, the MTAs are fast, man. You can't beat that. One day we was in that Cordova, and I remember we was coming down Highway 6. We got on Westheimer to go out to the neighborhood. And there's one of them Knight Rider Trans Ams right there at the red light beside us. I was sitting in the passenger seat of Cordova. I was like, "Look at that car, Dad, boy, that's cool." And Dad, boy, that car's a piece of shit. I said, "That car's fast. Ain't like this Cordova, man. This big old, this is like a mom car. That's a fast car, boy." And sure enough, boy, the light turned green. Old boy seen me looking at his car. He goosed like, goosed it a little bit, that little Trans Am. And my dad just leaned on the gas pedal, that Cordova. That Cordova jumped off and stood right beside that Trans Am. I look at my dad, and he's just a grinning behind them aviators over there. He like them Ray Bans. Boy, old Trans Am starts running through the gear. Old Dad's just hanging beside him in that old Cordova. Old Cordova ain't even breathing hard. Dad just one hand on the wheel. Boys, watch just a wiggling. That old big block 383 just a. You know, man, we must have been up about 90 miles an hour. Boy, that TA is just, it's winding out, sounding weak as shit. And my dad looks right at me, and he dumped the pedal on that Cordova and just left that Trans Am in the dust. Told you that thing was a piece of shit. Turned around and drove back into the neighborhood. Oh, man. Hope you guys enjoyed today. This was fun for me. I don't know how we got it. I didn't, we're 30 episodes in. I've had fun on every one of them. Let's do some testimonials, if you will. If you will, Daddy. Do some testimonials. If you will, Daddy. Let's see here. I am organized this week. Let's see what we got here. At Chuck Packwood, I have the same relationship with my wife. After 25 years of raising 3 kids, she is still my favorite person to spend time with, brother. That makes me happy because I'm only about 16, 17 years in, but she's Rachel's my person. Rachel's my person. She's who I like to game with. She's who I like to hang out with. Even grocery shopping with her is a fun time sometimes, just because of us cutting up, having a good time. I like hearing that y'all done that for 25 years. Makes me think I probably got me another good 10 years left in mine. At Wayne Havens 99. Oh, Wayne, that's my old buddy, man. Wayne was a stand-up comic, man, back in the day. Yeah. In high school, I had a '68 C10 that would blow the horn when I would turned right. But as a joke, about 10 years ago, I would buy a car horn and wire it to the brake light wire on the trucks of the guys I worked with. Oh, those are the best, man. We had a fun one when I was driving wreckers. A lot of people had the old Ford 1 ton diesel wrecker, and what you could do at the time, these are like late '90s models, is on them Fords, that overdrive button on the stick up here on the shifter, you could pull that overdrive button out. It would just pop right out. Right? Well, if you take an overdrive button, nobody can get an overdrive. Well, without that overdrive, that old 7.3, boy, you'd be lucky if you was going to get about 55 miles an hour. So we'd all as record drivers hang out under the underpass, bullshitting, smoking cigarettes, and swapping lies. And I would ease around to everybody's truck. Everybody wasn't sitting in their truck, and especially my buddies, and I'd pull them overdrive buttons, stick them in my pocket. And then a call would come in on the radio. We'd all hop in the truck, take off down the freeway. And sure enough, you could suddenly see everybody that I stole their overdrive because they hit 55 and they was done. We were leaving that ass. At WSHR 1032, with the end of this format of the podcast, I found myself looking back on what's made me think and what's made me feel across all the episodes, starting from something that was just fun, really interesting to listen to, and turning into something that really helped me get through dark times after the love of my life broke my heart, and then getting fired as well. It became a good, consistent thing when everything else seemed to get turned upside down. The stories, the laughs, and tears all helped me see that it can get better. Life does keep moving and move each person towards their true place and thing in life. So thank you, JW, for everything. This podcast has helped me understand all the great laughs along the way. Man, that's all I ever really wanted. I'm glad. That's the whole point of this thing, is it's gonna be all right. That's Thank you, especially on this episode. Thank you. My whole purpose in life is to make people laugh and think and enjoy themselves, and that's all I've ever really wanted to do. It's the thing I'm best at. I love you guys, man. Don't be sad, man. What's coming is going to be fun. We're going to have a good time. The point of this whole thing, I didn't know there's a point when I started doing it, but I told you I was trying to figure out what made me a car guy. I still don't have a clue. I still don't have a clue how I came from an environment other people came from, and I became this dude. Um, I think probably a lot of it has to do with my dad. Maybe all the stories him and his brothers told me about racing and stuff growing up. Maybe that's what spurred it. Maybe it was just that first bit of freedom, the first time I had my own car. I can't tell you. We didn't suss it out, but I'm glad I am a part of this community. You know, there's a lot of guys doing a lot of different things in this community. There's guys building cars, guys selling cars, guys buying cars, and sometimes there's just guys talking about cars and what cars did to them. And I'm glad to be a part of this community. I'm glad to have found this for myself. Hope you guys continue to look for the things that bring you joy and bring you peace inside. Man, let's do, if you guys have a drink or whatever you have, a little toast with me, you know? We did something here. 30 episodes, that's something. We've been on a journey together. I'm rooting for you guys. Cheers. And don't be sad. Don't be sad. The new format's gonna be fun. There's a lot of stories I didn't get to tell y'all. There's a Toyota Matrix that brought up my first child home, and just a number of others. The best part of being alive is that there's always more stories to tell. Hopefully one day we'll cross paths, maybe at a live show or something, and I'll still be me, and presumably y'all will still be y'all. I'm rooting for you. I mean that. We did something here. I'm JW and I love you. Yeah, I tried to be different. Tried to go against the grain. Didn't make no difference. I just ended up the same. I've never known better. 'Cause every bone tethered. You wanna change my name, gotta drain my blood. Ah, damn, I am my father's son.